Hi everyone. Today I'm going to do something I haven't done in quite a while, and I'm going to do a sale haul and of Blu-ray releases that I have purchased recently. It's going to be also kind of a preview of coming attractions because all these movies I will probably be talking about in the coming month of May of 2023. And I'm a very peculiar buyer of physical media in that I never have a large to-be-watched pile. I generally only go to 10 or 12, and then I don't buy anymore until I've seen most of those. When I hit like 2, 3, or 4 left, I will purchase some more. So I only had 2 left before these films came in. And I think I've shown them before, but I'll just briefly show them again, the two releases that I have left. And one of them is a kino release of their Francois Truffaut movies that I think came out in February. I covered 2 of the single movie releases, The Bride Wore Black and The Story of Adele H. But this collection has no supplements, but has some terrific movies in there: The Green Room, The Wild Child, The Man Who Loved Women, and Small Change. So I'll be getting to these soon. I'll also be getting to this Marguerite Duras 2-film set that, from Criterion that I purchased in the Criterion Flash sale, which was in early March of 2023. This includes Baxter, Vera Baxter, and India Song. I've never seen a movie directed by Marguerite Duras. So these are, I think I have 8 titles here that came in within the last week. And I'm going to I'm going to show them by decades of when the films originally came out. Now, I was going to do a participate in the Kino Lorber sale that ended this past Monday, and I made out a list, but then I looked at all the new releases for the month of April into March, and I want to get those movies. The Kino movies I had were movies that were nice to have, but these are movies I really want to see. So I start with a silent film, and I've put out 380 videos in the last 2.5 years. I've never covered anything from 1920, any silent films. And this is Back Pay and The Valley of Silent Men. And these 2 films, which only run a little less than an hour, are directed by Frank Borzage, 1922. Borzage was a big-time director in the 20s and into the 30s, considered by many around the world, including Sergei Eisenstein, the great Russian director, as one of the great filmmakers. I did a series on Borzage a couple years ago, and I read the only biography of Frank Borzage that exists by Hervé Dumas, and I really enjoyed it. Borzage becoming one of my all-time favorite directors. I've not seen silent film. I'm very weak on. I saw all of Keaton and all of Chaplin when they were restored years ago in a movie theater, but not much else. Drama-wise, I've seen Sunrise. I saw The Woman of Paris, A Woman of Paris, I think it was, directed by Charlie Chaplin, which he did not star in. I saw that in the movies. It was restored in the early 70s, and then I did see the Napoleon restoration in the early 1980s with the 3-screen Cinerama kind of look to it, which was absolutely spectacular. Well, this is coming from a company called Under Crank, and it's one's a 2K, one's a 4K restoration, and with the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress is very well represented on the cover here. Something completely different from the 1960s. This is The Truth About Spring, starring one of my favorite actresses of all time, Haley Mills. It co-stars her husband, John Mills, her father, John Mills, and also James MacArthur, who you might know from Bookham Dano from Hawaii Five-0. Lionel Jeffries is also in this. I sort of grew up with Haley Mills. I think she's pretty much the same age as me. I wish somebody would release Tiger Bay and Whistle Down the Wind, 2 real early Haley Mills films that are not out in Blu-ray, at least in Region A. I haven't seen that. I don't remember too much about this, but I remember really loving it when I was growing up. And now we go to the 70s, and we go to a 4K, and this is Al Pacino and Serpico. This will be my next video. So this was from '73, so it fits into my year-long series of the movies from 1973. It's a 4K in Dolby Vision. It's a story of New York City police story, police corruption story. So we get New York in the 1970s. You can't go wrong with that as a movie set. It does have a slipcase with the same art, same cover art. Al Pacino's movie, I think, that came right after The Godfather. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then this is another oddity for me, because I picked up the Best Buy exclusive 4K of Nicholas Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie. And this is the first steelbook I have ever bought in my life, that I've ever held in my hand. I often wonder, what did it mean, a steelbook? And it's got a slipcase, a transparent slipcase that, I'm sorry for the glare, but you can see it's fairly unusual. I guess this is becoming fairly common, this kind of transparent, where it fits into the art on the actual steelbook. And it is in 4K. You do get a Blu-ray, and but no Dolby Vision here, which is always disappointing for me. I'm a great lover of Dolby Vision. And it came well packed. I was nervous because I read the Blu-ray forum, Blu-ray.com forums, and they all have all these horror stories about how things get damaged and but Best Buy, and because this was a steelbook, I hear, well, they all come indented, but boy, they packed this well. It was in one movie, one release in a good-sized box full of bubble wrap. It was great. Another thing I always read about in that forum is that all the movies are coming in with scratched. Now, I started buying Blu-rays about 3 years ago, I guess. I started during COVID, and after I had gotten rid of my much larger collection years ago. And so I bought well over 300 movies. I've never received a movie either that was damaged or that had scratches on it, and so I guess I'm due a whole bunch of scratched videos. None of these all these came in very good shape. So the next film is also from the 70s. This is The Haunting of Julia, and this stars Mia Farrow. It's in 4K. This does have Dolby Vision. I'm very fond of Mia Farrow in the movies pre-Woody Allen. Not that she isn't good in the Woody Allen movies, but in those movies, she's basically playing a version of Woody Allen. Rosemary's Baby, the very much underrated Secret Ceremony. I'm not sure I ever saw this movie. This came quite a few years later, in the later 70s, than Secret Ceremony did, but Keir Dullea also co-stars in The Haunting of Julia. Then another obscure movie that I just couldn't resist, a French movie, a coming-of-age French movie. They know how to do those coming-of-age movies, and this is Wild Reeds, and I love the cover, and I've never seen a movie by the director André Techin, I think it's pronounced. This is a Blu-ray, and it's got some features on it as well. So I always like to watch movies. Part of the fun for me of watching movies is discovering new directors that and André Techin I have heard of, but this will be my introduction to him, and hopefully it'll be a fun time. And then from Criterion we get another 4K, and this is Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King with Robin Williams, Jeff Bridges. This is in Dolby Vision, and this is a movie that I saw. I know I saw it. I have very vague recollection of it. So, you know, the memory, at my age, every year, the memory bank the deposits are seeping out of my memory bank. But isn't it amazing? This is the second of 3 Terry Gilliam films that Criterion is going to be releasing in 4K this year. There was Adventures of Baron Munchausen, Time Bandits is coming. Now, 2 years ago, or whenever Criterion started their UHD collection, who would have ever thought that we would have 3 Terry Gilliam movies and we would have 0 4K movies from Akira Kurosawa? I don't think anybody would have predicted that. I realized I enjoyed Baron Munchausen. I might get Time Bandits in the coming, hopefully coming Barnes & Noble sale in July. And then last is Up, Down, Fragile. This is directed by Jacques Rivet, and this is the last of 4 films that Coen released so far this year. I don't think there's any more on the schedule. Rivet has become a real favorite of mine. I had not seen any of these 4 films, and this one sounds intriguing. I'll just read the New York Times blurb: a lighthearted existential romp in which life is a playful dialogue between reality and fantasy, between musical comedy and drama, and you never know when one will turn into the other. 170 minutes. One thing you can rely on with Rivet. He doesn't move fast, but I never find him boring. I know most people probably do, but he has been these later films in Rivet's filmography has been a real revelation for me. And so, as far as future plans for the channel, in May, most of these films I think I'll be able to cover. In June, there's not many, in May and June, there's not many new releases that really intrigue me much, 2 or 3. So in June, I'll probably do a whole lot of 1973 movies because I've only done about 12 or 13 so far and I have to catch up. July, I want to do a summer series of some sort, maybe spread it over July and August, movies that have summer in the title, that have summer in the as a big part of the narrative. But like last year, I did Michael Crichton movies, 6 or 7 of them in the summertime. They're the kind of fun movies that you like to watch in the summertime. And so I had a lot of fun doing that. Now, there's another series I'm thinking of, but I'll get to that in a minute because I want to show some of the books, the 2 books that I've recently finished and 2 that I've just started, film-related books. And I've showed this book in my last video that I made about Rebel Without a Cause. And this is Live Fast, Die Young, The Wild Ride in Making Rebel Without a Cause. And that's James, there's a great cover, James Dean. This is one of the best books I've ever made about making of a movie. All the characters, all the actors, the people behind the scenes, Nicholas Ray, the director, all really come alive. And it's a great story because James Dean died 2 weeks before the release of Rebel Without a Cause. He made Giant subsequently, previously East of Eden. So there's only 3 James Dean movies in which he starred in. So I highly recommend Rebel Without a Cause and the book as well. And the other book I just finished yesterday, this is Hollywood, The Oral History. This is a big book, took me a while to read it. And Janine Bassinger and Sam Wasson, what they did was they collected interviews from mounds and mounds of material that American Film Institute had to preserve the memories of the people that had worked going back to the early silent film days. So you get they're like witnesses sort of, and you get directors, stars, technicians, costume people, and usually it's just a short paragraph, few sentences. Sometimes it'll go as far as two pages. And it's basically about the business of Hollywood. It starts back in the silent film days. proceeds through the studio system and the sound era, and the fall of the studio system, the new Hollywood, the production code going away, the summer blockbuster movies that came in the 70s, and the super agent era. A lot of it is from people in their 60s and 70s looking back, and so it's a bit heavy on the nostalgia, maybe a kind of rose-colored glasses look at Hollywood, and the moguls here come out, you know, smelling like roses. But it was very entertaining. There's a lot of terrific stories in here. And talking about the business of Hollywood, I just started to gross. And this is subtitled The Hits, the Flops, That Summer That Ate Hollywood. So this has a much more specific focus on the year 1998 and the summer of 1998. And so it's very much about the business of Hollywood, and the behind the scenes, and how films are marketed, and what flops and what succeeds. And then finally, I watched Sorry Wrong Number a couple weeks ago, did a video on it. I got obsessed with Barbara Stanwyck suddenly, and what a fantastic career she had. And I looked for a biography, and there's only one that is research and scholarly kind of book. And it wasn't in my library system. These other three books are library books. And the book, so I had to buy it. So, and it was only a giant book. It was only $22. Pretty good for a film book. And this is A Life of Barbara Stanwyck, Still True, 1907 to 1940, by Victoria Wilson. And 850 pages of text that only goes up to 1940. This came out in 2013, 10 years ago. In the introduction, it said that Victoria Wilson worked 15 years on the writing and research of this book. So it's 10 years since to get the second volume so far. And Victoria Wilson is, I think, 74. And so there's still some time, but hopefully it says on the back cover that she's working on it. So hopefully that might come out soon. But I'm going to go slow through this biography. Now, it's one of those, you know, I only read the first 3 chapters so far, so I've gotten past the family tree stuff. Now, I always have trouble whenever I read a biography of anybody. You know, the family tree can sometimes be so labyrinth and elaborate, and I lose my focus. But Victoria Wilson makes it very interesting. She is a really good writer, and Barbara Stanwyck had a very challenging childhood. Now, she made, in the 1930s, she made 37 movies, I think I counted, in 10 years. So it's 3.7 movies a year. That's a busy actress. And she only made 2 films, and her first 2 films were in 1929. And she was almost immediately a star. And I think she was only in silent films. I think there's a cameo, you know, where she just shows up in, I think, a chorus line. Now, that set me off, well, why not do a series on the films of Barbara Stanwyck films in the 1930s? Now, I can't cover 37 films, but I might be able to pick out some not that many are available on Blu-ray. And most of them, almost all of them, I have not seen. I have seen Stella Dallas, which is probably her most famous film from the 1930s. But early on, she made films with Frank Capra, Ladies of Leisure, and I think Bitter Tears of General Yen. I think those are 2 of her early films directed by Capra. And I think those are available on Blu-ray or maybe DVD. So that's something too that is part of my ambitions. You never know at my age when your ambitions are going to be thwarted, but it sounds like an interesting project to do. I did one on Claire Colbert comedies of the 1930s a while back, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And Barbara Stanwyck is one of those actresses that's so good, but everybody looks to Joan Crawford and Bette Davis as the movie stars. But I think Barbara Stanwyck may have been a better actress than either of them. She certainly had more. I think she probably had more range. Okay, so that'll wrap this one up. Thanks to everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.